Welcome to the Candid Shop. We speaking on things you not. Just press play and let it rock. Welcome to the Candid Shop. Whoa. Welcome to the Candid Shop. We speaking on things you not. Just press play and let it rock. Welcome to the Candid Shop. Oh, feel like we going through mad things. Gotta keep it real when they choose not. We gon' talk about it when the news drop. Welcome to the show where you know we don't fake this. Keep your opinion to yourself if it don't make sense.
Hey, Podcast Nation. It is your girl, Candidly Kristen, and this is the Candid Shop, your number one destination for candid conversations. Today, I am delighted to be having a very special author spotlight chat with actor, dancer, filmmaker, and author of Choosing Survival, How I Endured a Brutal Attack and a Lifetime of Trauma Through the Power of Action, Choice, and Self-Expression, Lynn Forney. Welcome, Lynn, to the Candid Shop.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure to have you here today and be chatting with you. So I guess I have to start by going back, and if you could just share a little bit of your backstory with me and my listeners.
Sure. I was born in Atlanta and I moved to South Florida when I was 6, and I was a cheerleader when I was 3. Like, I don't know. I started dancing when I was 8.
Got it.
Perfectionist, you know. I love dance so much. It became such a huge part of my life that I changed my major to dance when I went to University of Florida. Okay. And I did that in the spring semester of 98. And then I went home to visit my mother in between the spring and summer semesters. And that's when I was attacked and stabbed multiple times.
By someone you knew?
No, I did not. I don't know. Yeah. No, I don't know him at all.
Wow. So first I want to ask you what kind of dance you do, like jazz, contemporary, a little bit of everything.
Mostly modern is kind of where I did a lot of ballet growing up, tap jazz, the whole 9 yards. And then when I was in college, I got to do some different like African dance and some Indian dance. And, so I got to be more, more exposed to different things. But I think modern / contemporary is kind of, and was a lot of a jazz influence, I would say, is where I sort of settled my style.
Okay. So talk to me about the why of your book and why you chose to write it when you did.
Yeah, it's interesting. When this first happened to me, I would kind of start getting into like all the details of the story, and I would just say like, oh, I should just write a book, right? It's so crazy. I should just write a book.
Right.
And the 25th anniversary happens to be on May 9th. So It is coming up. And it's always been in the back of my mind to write this book. It just, the timing didn't feel right, or I was just too busy with other things. And I'll be honest, with lockdown, I found myself with a lot more time because, my thing was performing arts and being around people all the time. And oddly enough, and this is a weird story, but I started vocal lessons virtually, and she happened to also be a coach. And I kind of joined one of her like small group programs, and she used this Voxer app, which we had to, talk into. And she knew that I had thought about this book, and I was sort of starting to kind of think about maybe now, maybe I could think about writing it. And she, kind of gently and sometimes not so gently encouraged me to do it. So I first wrote a poem that is in the book called My Mistress, and I read it to the group and got a really beautiful response. And so then I was like, well, maybe I'll try this first chapter and see how that goes. And then it just kind of slowly progressed from there. And the why I even talk about pretty candidly, pun intended, in the book of the why. It's like, why am I writing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself out there this way? But I just realized that so many people walk around with so much shame, and we all have a story, right? We all have a story to tell. And I think so many of us don't share it for fear of other people's reactions, what they're going to think of us. And it really does so much damage to us as people in our psyche. And so it's just, and I think encouragement from others, like storytelling is really powerful, and this is how we can heal. And so that's ultimately why I wrote it.
Okay. So when you wrote it, what, if anything, did you hope the book would achieve, and who was your target audience if you had a specific one?
I know, I think I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest, but anyone that's been through, obviously, any sort of victimization where they've been attacked or, I don't want to give specifics, but anyone who feels like they've been silenced in some way, or they feel like they can't come forward, or they feel very alone and they don't quite know what the next steps are or how to heal. And so I just wanted to kind of go through all of the different things that I've tried and really press upon the fact that I made this conscious decision. Like, it has to be a decision that you make, a choice that you make to heal, to, if this doctor doesn't listen to you, find the next one. It's kind of like, it's so important to advocate for ourselves. And I know that can get tiresome, but I think anyone that just needed to hear someone else's voice to kind of give them a little push to heal as well. And that's, And then I do still have this kind of maybe naive thought that someone else who was attacked by this particular man would read it somehow and I could connect with them, because I've never met any of his other, I hate to use the word victim, but I've never met any of them. And I did have this naive thought of like, maybe, this will help me connect with someone else that that he attacked in the past.
Got you. So was he caught? Time? Okay.
Yeah. So he was never convicted for my case. So I will, say that, but, he did get caught 2 years after my attack. He, killed a woman. And he also attempted to rape like a 16-year-old girl in her apartment complex and broke her jaw. And then he attacked another one. Yeah. It's many, many, many women. And those are the three that I think he was able to get convicted on.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about victim shaming. And I hate the word victim too, but the shaming, blaming that happens to people who have been brutalized in any way. Let's chat a little bit about that. And was that in any way part of your healing process, like to move from victim shaming, blaming? And did any of it go on for you in your case?
Yes. Yeah, quite a lot, actually. And I think I was so young when I was 21. Right. And I think I was just kind of shocked at things people would say to me. I will say the one that was the most shocking was this older gentleman. I don't think I even knew. It's like you talk to people and I don't even remember how I met him or how I knew him. But he looked at me and he's like, well, what did you do to piss him off? Right. And I was like, what? And I was just, I just was stunned. And I think a lot of people wanted to, blame me in the sense that, oh, you must have known him, or your mom must have known him, or, I did something to bring this upon myself. Right. And I don't think I realized how, I was so profound, but I came to this realization at a young age that I don't think people can handle this kind of story, because if it truly is random, it could happen to them just as easily. Yeah. And I think that is so a lot of the victim shaming just comes from this fear-based response. Well, you must have caused it, because if you didn't, then this could happen to me and I can't handle that.
Right. And they have to make it make sense in their head. Like, it's just, people aren't just out there going eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Right.
And for a lot of these kinds of people, that's, they see somebody and for whatever reason, it's you today,
Right. Right.
So how did you push through all of the, I'm sure, fear, anxiety, maybe paranoia after this happened to you and start to really live again?
I think I just had this constant attitude that I was not going to let this man take my life away from me. I didn't think, like, I was in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. And when I got home, I don't think I realized quite how scary that would feel. Right. I slept in like the bed with my mom, and we actually had this like alarm system donated to us. Which was really lovely. But then this attacker guy ended up calling me on the phone. Yeah. And that was another reason why people, oh, well, see, you must have known him. I'm like, there's literally, so I will say, like, my name, my full name, my address, where I went to school, like everything was printed in every South Florida paper. There are 2 Forneys in the phone book. He obviously knew my address because he followed me home. I'm like, this isn't that hard. Like, the phone book was I know younger people may not know what a phone book is. Right. But it's very easy to find people back then. And that kind of did it for me. I have to go. Like, I can't be in this house anymore. And I still feel kind of guilty about leaving my mom there by herself. But I went and lived with my dad, and I think it was just this constant, I want to get back to my life. Like I went back to school that fall, which now I think about that, I'm like, my God, like this happened to me in May. And then in August, like mid-August, I'm like, going back to college, you know?
Right.
Wow.
I got to get back to normal.
Yeah. And it was hard. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like there were many tears shed, but I also I'm lucky that my professors were really supportive. I had some great friends at the time who I don't think they knew always how to help me, but the fact that they were there was wonderful. And I think I also was just determined to heal myself. Like I went to trauma therapy in my earlier 30s, and I did this really intense therapy called EMDR. And I remember telling the therapist, I don't want to be 85 with the same issues, like I was just like, can you please help me? And I think it affected me more than I even realized. Like I'm still kind of a little bit jumpy. If my husband came home, like I knew it would be him, but if he turned the corner, I would jump, like literally my feet would leave the floor. And then I was like, I don't think this is normal. I don't think this is quite maybe, so it just throughout all the years, I don't know. I just had this, I just dealt with it and moved forward and kind of pushed on and found help when I needed it.
Okay. So you mentioned, EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I know I didn't say that right,
but that's it.
Talk to me about that.
It's almost difficult to explain, and I'm going to just do it in like layman's terms because essentially how my therapist described it is when we go through a trauma, normally our brain, let's say, makes a circle, like it finishes the pattern out, but in a trauma, like it gets stopped and then you keep getting stuck in that same spot. And so what she kind of explained is the EMDR kind of helps your brain kind of finish out that pathway. Okay. And it's a way to sort of bring your subconscious more conscious or to your, forward to your consciousness. And it's a lot of visualization. So like she would kind of put me in a very relaxed state and have me like the first thing I had to do was go to like this very safe spot. Like I just kind of found myself on an island with like this glass house so I could see everything at all times, that's gonna be different for everybody. And then I had to like get on this little boat and go into a cave and just kind of go deeper and deeper into like, again, my subconscious just trying to tell me like what happened or, what I'm still struggling with. And one of the most profound things I have to say is I met a very young version of myself who was about 4.
Okay.
And that kind of brought up some trauma that I think I'd always suspected I had from when I was very little, but couldn't remember. So it became this like very layered thing where it's like, I don't think this is my attack from when I was 20, and I was like, I think this is something else. And so like, it just got this really deep information out. And, I will say it's a really intense process. It took about a year and it kind of feels like your brains are chopped up and thrown all around and you have to sort of put them back together. That's the best way I can describe it, but it's really, really powerful and effective. That being said, I have read that it's still considered kind of controversial and it doesn't have the same effect for everyone, unfortunately, but it was really amazing for me. Very, very hard. But yeah.
And let me just say here that Lynn nor I are medical doctors or anything like that. So this is not medical advice. Okay.
Correct. Thank you.
So listen, I am too a lifelong dancer. I started dance classes probably as soon as I could walk and continued them. Even today, I still dance. When I need to process something, I dance. I listen to music and I dance. So how did dance, art, and self-expression help you, and how can it help others?
Yeah, I think there's such an incredible power that can come from art because it's different than our words. And sometimes we don't have the words or we can't, either say them or we don't even have the words for it. Right. And something about our bodies, especially, can just move energy in such a unique, special way. And, even if it's like vocalizing, right. And you're vocalizing, maybe not words, but you're just moving sound. It's just something about that. And it's so inherent to us as human beings, I feel like. And it's so sad to me how arts are just not taken seriously. They're always underfunded, but they're just so incredibly powerful and something that's so unique to us as human beings. And, I think dance for me has just always been where I felt like I was at home. Again, I could just express things that I didn't know how else to otherwise express. And especially when I was performing, there's just something about the energy exchange that happens. It's just so special and unique, and really powerful.
I agree. Yeah. what do you do, Lynn, on the days when your inner critic, and I think her name is Betty?
Yeah, that's right.
Is getting the best of you?
Sometimes I'll, I try to go to the, all the things that I've done, like, right, the EFT tapping, or just trying to tell her to shut up. I don't need her help right now. I think also changing my relationship with her. I did some shadow work, and that's how I came to know Betty, and realizing that Betty is there ultimately to protect me.
Yes.
Right. And I think realizing that gives, if anyone's considering this type of work, it gives you a different perspective on those shadow parts or the inner critic or whatever it is that, you're dealing with. And you can kind of say, like, thank you. I know that you're here to protect me, but I have this. I can do this. Like, I can handle this. And sometimes it kind of helps them sort of sit back down and, shut up for a little while.
Right. For a little while. Never forever.
Right. No. And some days I'll admit, like, I just play video games because I just need to zone out and not in my head, So every day is a little different, but, obviously focusing on anything else helps. So like you said, just putting on music and dancing, like shifting that energy, vocalizing, just doing 20 jumping jacks. I mean, it sounds silly, but it really can shift very quickly. And then on the days where I just can't seem to win, I'm just like, today I'm just sad, and that's okay. And tomorrow is a different day, and I'm going to wake up with a different perspective,
Yeah. Sometimes it's just binge watching Netflix, and that's it.
Exactly. And being okay, and also being okay with it. Be like, this is what I need. This is what I need today, and that's okay.
Yeah. So, Lynn, what does choosing survival look like for you in real time?
Again, I think it's making the choice to do the healing, do the work. It's also choosing to think about, like, if I have a thought that maybe is more judgmental, let's say, it's kind of like thinking, well, why did I have that thought, and where is that coming from, and why? It's sort of like being more aware of my own reactions, my own thoughts, because I know that the way I treat people and I speak to people is just going to be a ripple effect.
Right.
So I think that's one of the ways. I think knowing, I struggle with depression still, and kind of being more aware of my own, symptoms, so to speak, when they kind of start to creep up and it's becoming a daily thing. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose to recognize this. I'm going to choose to, do some things. And that means going back to a therapist or whatever it is.
Right.
And I think, again, just choosing not to be angry. Right. It sounds simple, but I do have a lot of anger, right? And I've had to work it out. I mean, one time I was living in New Orleans, and I was like, I need to punch some things. So I went and started kickboxing, right? Because it was really cathartic. So it's like choosing to listen, to not just ignore things, to really like, okay, I need a shift. I need to do something, and I'm going to choose to do it instead of just sitting and wallowing and sitting in my anger and hating everything and hating life and just being angry. I really do think that's a choice, or can be. Yes,
should be. And it's funny you said, I just feel like hitting something, because apparently they have these rage rooms now.
Yeah.
You can go in and just break stuff.
That sounds amazing. I know. I've heard of that, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. Because how cathartic is that?
Because how many times do we want to just smash something, but you don't want to break your stuff, right?
Right, exactly. So yeah, something like that. It's like sometimes
I didn't think of it.
I know. I need to find one of those too.
Right. So, what's on your horizon, Lynn? Can we more books? What are some of the other things that you have in the pipeline or that you're doing?
Yeah, I just, I completed a short film that's actually winning some awards. I'm really excited about it. It's a horror musical comedy called Hot Sauce.
Oh, okay.
It's absurdist. I think it's hilarious, but but I was able to use like acting and dance, and I choreographed for it. I sang songs. I wrote the song. I wrote the whole thing, and it's doing pretty well. I'm very excited. But the next, I guess I would say more, well, not that was cathartic too, but there's a poem in my book called The Cage, and I would love to create a dance on film based on that. So I have this idea of having a big cage built for me, and recording the poem, and then my husband can put some music underneath it, and creating a film based on that.
Nice.
So I think that's sort of the next big project, I'll say.
Okay, I love it. I'm looking forward to it. And where can we find Hot Sauce? I want to see that.
I know. Well, I can email you a link. Basically, when you're in the film festival circuit, you have to keep it really private. Otherwise, you get disqualified. But eventually, I think when I'm done with that, maybe the next year or so, put it on YouTube, and just have it available.
Yeah. Well, I promise I won't share it, but I still want to see it.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh, Lynn, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. My hope is always that these conversations give my listeners something that they can connect with, relate to, and hopefully help with something that they're going through. It might not be an attack as brutal as yours, but whatever the trauma is.
Yeah.
That's always my hope. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you for having me again.
Oh, you're welcome. We're not done now.
I know.
Now we get to the fun stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, we get to play 10 candid questions. 10 candid questions is just 10 random questions, and the only rule is that you have to answer them candidly.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's the number one thing you think is missing most in the world?
Oh, joy.
That was easy. Introvert or extrovert?
Ooh, I think I'm an omnivert, honestly. I'm a little bit of both.
Okay, me too.
Is that fair?
I like that word. I'm going to use that.
Okay.
Third question. Who has made the most difference or influence in your life?
Oh, I mean, I have to say my husband for sure, but if we're looking at like professional people, I would say it's one of my college professors. His name is Rick. I talk about him in my book, and he passed away from lung cancer and never smoked, by the way.
Wow.
So there's my PSA on that. Very, very healthy man, but he just was such a beautiful influence for me in my life. So I'm going to go with Rick.
All right. Number 4, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Yeah, I'm a dog person too.
I love cats too, but I'm definitely a dog person.
I'm so allergic to cats. I love them too, but dogs there's just something about a dog waiting for you by the door when you get home that's just unmatched.
Exactly.
What has been on your mind recently that you'd like to share with my listeners?
Oh, wow, that's a hard one. Huh. I think trusting yourself. I've had some, so my husband and I kind of want to move. We were thinking about moving back to New Orleans. We live in Austin now, and I keep going back and forth and waffling. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, it's so hard. Like, I feel like I can have this clarity. If you asked me a question or wanted advice, I could very, quickly come up with something for you. But when it's my own life, I'm like, I don't know. What about this? And what about this? So that's been on my mind a lot, of trusting myself and relaxing and like letting, I don't know, like getting more into flow. I think there's some really powerful, that's powerful advice. That's easier said than done. But yeah, that's been on my mind a lot. Surrendering to the flow, I guess.
Surrendering to the flow. I like it. All right. Morning person or night owl?
Oh, night owl.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When have you grown the most in your life, and what caused that growth?
Wow. I think the EMDR therapy helped me grow a lot. It helped me become a much better communicator because I thought I was pretty good at it, and apparently I was not so good. So I just did a lot of work during that kind of year or 2 years. And I mean, it's still ongoing, but I grew a lot then. And then I think I've grown a lot in the last couple of years too, writing the book. And I watched a lot of workshops and things. So I think I would say in the last 3 years, and then that EMDR section of my life.
Okay. All right. 8th question. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite curse word?
Am I allowed to say it?
Yes.
Fuck. Yes. It's definitely my favorite.
Mine too. There's something about it.
It's cathartic, man.
Yes. Yep. 9th question. If you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you say?
Oh my goodness. Choose love, man, over anger. I mean, I just feel like so many people are so angry and they hold on to it so much. I just wish I could. I mean, anger is a useful emotion, right? Mm-hmm. It's definitely there for a reason, but it's the holding on to it and the keeping it and the righteousness of it. It's like move through it, like release it and see how we're all so much more similar than we think. And that's ultimately, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And the 10th and final question, which is the same for everybody. How can my listeners connect with you and get your book?
Yeah. You can find my book on Amazon. My goal is to have an audiobook out this year. It's available in, all the other forms, but, Amazon. I have a website, lynnforney.com. You can also email me, choosingsurvival@gmail.com. But yeah, I would love to know if people pick it up and read it. I would love to know, their thoughts and how it connected with them. And because that's my hope. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Lynn, first, let me say in the most sincerest, genuine way I can that I am glad you survived and that you're thriving and growing. I'm just glad you're still here with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for your time, your authenticity, your vulnerability, and sharing your story. Thank you for all of it. And I hope that when this goes out to the world, people can connect with it and connect with you and get your book, because I know I sure will. I'm an audiobook fan, so please let me know when the audio.
Everyone keeps saying that. I'm like, okay, I need to get this out. And I'm an actor, right? I can't let anyone else do it. I have to do it.
Right. Oh,
that's my story.
And you've got a great voice for it. So.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, okay. Well, thank you for the kick in the pants. I will get on that.
You're welcome. All right, guys. So Lynn's contact info, her website, and links to her book will be in the show notes. And please, please, please don't forget to visit my little old website at www.thekandidshop.com, Candid with a K. Listen to an episode, drop me a review, tell me what you like, don't like. Share the show with your friends, family, co-workers, neighbors, strangers on the street. Just tell them about the show. And until next time, I want every single person out there to keep it safe, keep it healthy, and keep it candid.